welcome everybody, and welcome to another edition of Across the Pitch with myself, Dave Miller, Jose Nunez, and Mike Pereira. We're all here, to discuss. It's been a pretty good week for the Union. I mean, 4 points out of 6, maybe could have won the game against DC, but I think all in all, the climbing up the table slowly. I think before kickoff last weekend against Colorado, I think the Union were like 11th place, and they were up to 5th at that point, and they're slowly climbing the table, and we're hopefully going to see a sort of run that they ended the 2021 season with when they obviously got into the CONCACAF Champions League. So fingers crossed we have a really strong end to the season. We could be, it's out of the realm of the possibility to say they could maybe sneak into that supporter shield race.
Dave, I like the optimism. I know Kevin Kincaid had mentioned that as well. If the Union find their way into the supporter shield race soon, does this past week kind of spark that run? But also, really quick, want to say hi to Kyle from the one team we all agree on. Hopefully him and Jillian are having a good weekend and the night tonight. So, Kyle, thanks for joining us. But yeah, it's been a very weird turn of events here for the Union. Jose, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, thank you. I must admit, I was a little surprised when Dave was taking the wheel here. I was like, whoa, this is great. He's back. He just wants to drive. I love it. No,
he's 24 now. It's his birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Dave. For those
Thank you very much. Appreciate
it. He's taking charge over here.
Dave, can we share how old you're turning?
24.
24. My God, to be 24 again, right?
Seriously.
No, I'm doing well. I think, Dave, you alluded to it. Mike, you and I also talked about it, but 4 out of 6 points, it's not bad. You could argue that, yes, we could have had 6, but man, that DC United game was such a slog, and we needed that win the way we did this past weekend. So really excited to chat with both of you about it.
Yeah, even just think about the Colorado match, right? You get 3 matches in a week, and you get 7 out of 9 points in that week. So it's a productive night. I think all of us had said probably 7 points would have been ideal over those 3 games. But Dave, I know you just caught up on a little bit on the Union match from this past Saturday. Did you watch the match on Wednesday as well, or?
So unfortunately, I did. So I made the big mistake of, all social media off, and I thought I'd watch the game, and I was hoping, it could be like maybe a Union would win. And so unfortunately, yeah, I stage blacked out for the wrong game and caught the 0-0. And so yeah, because obviously yesterday, as you both know, I was at Wembley watching non-league finals day, which was quite a cool day. Cheap ticket, £25 to watch 2 games at Wembley. Cool day. So ended up not being able to watch the Union game because I had an early start. So yeah, obviously wake up in the morning, see it was a 3-0 win. Was obviously a massive win. So yeah, unfortunately, I did catch the DC United game. Obviously, it was a weird game. I think my biggest takeaway from that game is they play a really, really high sweeper keeper.
Yes, I had so many friends. To that point, Dave, I had so many friends while I was in the stands in 140, and Mike, you were up at the press box. So it was actually that was. We can talk more about Margot's photos later, but. That was the first time I was sitting in the stands, and I got maybe 3 or 4 different text messages asking me, who the fuck who do they think they are for this goalkeeper to be Manuel Neuer, basically, just somewhere in between the box and the half field. It was just sort of, it was just sort of weird to see someone so far out and almost caught out of position 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, that's my former teammate back from high school, Tyler Miller. I haven't talked to him probably since I graduated high school. So when I was a senior at Eustis, he was a freshman, an up and coming phenom for us at Eustis. He was playing goalkeeper as a freshman in varsity. So he's always been a great keeper, and I saw him almost get beat a couple times. I was like, come on, just as much as I wanted to see him do well. Also,
that Elliott attempt was what, inches away?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He just barely missed the post. But also, Dave, you had another birthday shout out here in the comments. So we got just birthdays, pleasantries coming in. So, yeah,
thanks for watching, Dylan.
Yes, thanks for watching. I was going to say, obviously, listen to the commentary. Obviously, you get sort of a different perspective to being there, of course. And the commentators were pointing out, whenever the Union had a corner, or like a set piece deep in the DC United half, that Miller was coming out onto the halfway into the Union half, was actually stood in the Union half as like the Union were taking corners and stuff, and it was sort of like, and that was probably the one annoying thing that perhaps they didn't, try and catch them out enough. I think there was one opportunity where he was well off his line and Flack could sort of run through, had like space in behind instead of Thomas getting set up and playing it. He tried to go for goal and just completely scuffed it like 30 yards wide. Didn't really do much. But I think again, it was one of those things. Perhaps maybe in the notes for next time you keep an eye out on it and fingers crossed. I mean, it's a very risky thing, but clearly the way they've started the season for DC United in comparison to last year, it's somewhat working, I guess.
Well, I mean, Jose, you and I went into the press room and in the locker room after the match, and Kai was visibly upset after the game. I know he shared his displeasures with basically the ball not going down the left side enough, their lack of energy that night, the fact that they trained a certain way and it just didn't come to fruition. He was very vocal, very upset. But I know, and just from rewatching the game and kind of seeing the highlights, they were definitely playing higher up defensively and almost baiting the Union to just kick it, to get a long ball to kind of beat them that way. But it just wasn't working. Nothing was connecting all night. And it just seemed like they were very much lost compared to what we saw against Colorado, as well as what we saw against the Revolution this past Saturday. But I mean, Jose, from being in 140 and seeing from your perspective, what caught your eye from the DC United match?
First and foremost, I think I've been one of the biggest critics of Leon Flock over this past season so far. And we're talking about, 19 games at this point? Probably, 19 games total, I think, including champions. So a nice, I think, buildup of matches to make some judgments. But I think it was totally serviceable, both the DC United match and certainly New England, where he kept a lot of people really, really quiet, meaning midfielders for the other team. And we can talk more about New England, but I thought he was totally fine. That was one of the main things that I got out of that game. I really think that Kai's reaction and comments after the match were, I was almost taken back with how open he was about his displeasure. It was very noticeable being in the locker room or in the kicking area right before the match. Seeing his face just, distraught in a way, like what is going on. And now looking back, it almost gives me shades of what we're hearing out of Toronto, with a few star players over there, not so happy with coaching and the way that they're making up their roster. But nonetheless, I think he's right. That DC game, I saw a lot of opportunities where the ball could have been switched and you had Kai with maybe 10, 15 yards. But to Dave's point, over the past few weeks, Kai's crossing has not been the same over the last, at least this season, never mind, what it was last year with double-digit assists last year. We haven't seen that, but we have seen certainly goal production out of him. So that's, you got to take what you can out of that. And I think a lot of us would probably prefer goals over assists, but nonetheless, in that position, you almost, certainly want those assists, especially with how high up the field and, man, how well that Saturday formation worked out for him. But we can go more again into the Saturday game later.
Well, I think one of the things from Wednesday, and Dave, just to kind of get your thoughts, since we saw extended time from him, but Joaquin Torres, I almost said Roger Torres, Joaquin Torres did not have a good match.
No.
He was, I think, the one moment that you mentioned with Tyler Miller being off his line where Torres was basically had a good chance to chip him from midfield, just completely whiffed it. What did you think on Torres? I think myself, Jose, and the fans in general thought that he was far from productive overall.
Yeah, I think the Christmas tree, the two attacking midfielders in the Christmas tree did sort of somewhat struggle to have an influence in the game. I think Gazdag did struggle up until they went to the two up front and went to the diamond, and you saw him get a lot more involved. I think Torres as well, another player perhaps struggled to have a greater influence. You could see there was moments there where you thought something could happen, but it just didn't come off for him. It wasn't his best game. I don't think he started to life, as well as perhaps we'd expected in Philadelphia. But I think for a player like him, you're sort of hoping he can be like the Ilsinho, whether he goes 3 or 4 games without getting any minutes, and then you just know he'll come on and he can produce something magical. Whereas I think Torres perhaps is more of a player that needs to be playing consistently week in and week out, to get in the groove and get himself going. We saw that Gazdag, obviously, the first year he came in, he was sort of in and out of the lineup, struggled for any consistency. And once he sort of settled down his place, and we've seen it in the last couple of seasons especially, he's been arguably the most consistent player going forward. So I think, maybe it's just one of those things where he does need to have the opportunity to actually get in the game to actually play a lot of minutes. But unfortunately for him, he's sort of in that role where he's either going to be relying upon injuries to get game time, or he's going to have to try and assert one of the front three who are all DPs on ridiculous money. So, it's going to be. That's sort of my opinion on things. I don't know what you guys think, but I just think he's one of those players that needs consistent game time, and I don't think he's going to get it in this team.
Jose, how about you? What are your thoughts on Torres?
I think Torres had a really, really difficult. I hate to use the word awful, right? Because who am I to say that he had an awful game when in reality I would not be able to even touch that grass in real life. But as someone outside looking in, I don't know if he just doesn't have the leg per se. But a couple of times that he tried to switch the ball, it just was so short to the point where I thought that he was aiming for someone else, right? You saw him coming in from the right, coming to the left, and then trying to get the ball over to Kai on the left wing. And that ball just not even traveling past the second man that he was trying to skip over. So I think some of Kai's frustration maybe came from that, right? Having some of those switches not actually happen because the player who's trying to do them just maybe didn't have the leg. And to your point on the chip attempt by Torres, even if he would have had the right form, which he was on the run, if I remember, and sort of scuffed it, I don't know that he has the leg to really do it per se. But nonetheless, I think Torres, both of you are right. I think Torres is one of those players that just needs some consistent game time to sort of build that confidence and build that understanding of the pacing and the timing. And sure, Jim has talked to us about both Perea and Torres having to adjust to the defensive side. It seems like Torres has done it better than Andres for whatever reason, since we still see very little of Perea. But nonetheless, I think Wednesday may have been one of those games that Torres may want to forget. And seeing him walk out of the locker room, I was really sort of clamoring, like, are you coming out to talk to the press? Because I don't think you want to. Not a good game for you to talk to us.
No, it's a shame in terms of just trying to seize your opportunity. I mean, if there was ever a week or weeks to do it, it'd be now with the Union Youth Nationals away. By the way, Quinn, McGlynn, and Brandon Craig all started in the first match for the U.S. Youth National Team, which was a 1-0 win, by the way. So pretty cool to see them excel on that side of things, but
especially McGlynn with the additional game leading into it, right?
Yeah,
like he stayed an additional game with us, so for him to start right away, I was surprised. I must admit. Sorry to interrupt.
No, exactly. And Eric's chiming in here. In the best Mick from Rocky's voice, he's a bum, which I don't disagree with that. And Eric says, in all seriousness, I think he tries to do too much, like the rest of the team with too much passing. And I agree there 100%. I was actually about to say there was one opportunity right in front of the Union box where he gets the ball. He does well to create some space, and all he had to do was pass it. And he did not, and he turns the ball over right around the 18, which goes to Eric's point. I think he tries to do too much. I also think that, and I think somebody online had mentioned this, I just think he's more natural from the winger position rather than trying to be a 10 in the middle. I just don't think it fits. But again, unfortunately, once McGlynn comes back, once Quinn comes back, his minutes are just not going to be there. And this might have been his chance. And honestly, I don't think he left the impression he wanted. Same with Matt Real. I think Matt Real had a chance against DC United to really put a strong performance. I thought he put a meh performance. He missed the best opportunity of the night, scoring-wise as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also unfortunate when your best scoring opportunities come from Matt Real and Jack Elliott, which is what Curtin highlighted as well. I mean, you just can't have that happen. So it was a night to forget. I do think that part of the travel back from Colorado, as well as them possibly overestimating DC and saying, well, we kicked the shit out of them last year, we'll just do the same thing again on Wednesday, and they just didn't. I think it just didn't feel like they were up for the match, almost played down to their opponent. But regardless, it was still a 0-0 draw. It was still one on the standings, and then they went to Saturday when you play the Revolution. Now, Dave, I don't know. You caught the highlights for that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I was going to say, I'll make one point about obviously the game on Wednesday. One last point. I'd be interested to see, of course, as you sort of mentioned, Matt Real wasn't probably. We've seen him play at left back. He's not the most creative player going forward. He's a solid defender. He keeps it simple. He's a solid 6, 7 out of 10. He'll never let you down. I'm just thinking in these sort of instances, why didn't Jim push Kai up into a more of an advanced role and see what he can do there. Or even just trying to change up the formation, go with a 4-2-3-1 and put Torres out wide on one side, Kai out on the other, and you have him in an attacking position. We've seen that he can strike a good shot. He can shoot.
There were opportunities where Kai did get up, and I think that's where his frustration came from, where Real found himself with the ball, Kai making a very nice overlapping run after Real maybe tucked in a little bit, and Kai went up, and Real not having the. Honestly, it's game time because Mike, you said it. There were a couple of times where Matt was caught in possession just because I don't think he has that metronome in his head built up over the years of playing. Like you have a Gastag or a Bedoya, some of these players that hardly ever get caught with the ball a little too long, though you could argue Jose Martinez gets caught with the ball a little bit too much. So nonetheless, he had opportunities and it's just a bummer that this is what both Torres and Real displayed against a better than last year DC United team, but not a team that we should be tying at home.
I do think that I don't disagree with that, Dave, because I think we saw against Colorado and we saw against New England, Kai Wagner having more of that advanced position. And I do agree with it. I honestly, and maybe partially because of the attacking presence of DC, maybe they were being more cautious having Kai just back in his natural position. But I don't think it would have been a bad idea. And honestly, I think we've seen more of Matt Real in his past 2 months than we have in the past, 3.5, 4 years. And I don't think he's been bad. I don't. I think Matt Real has been a very solid, to your point, 6 out of 10, 6.5 out of 10 style player. He gets a job done. He does what he needs to do. I just don't think he was. I don't think he was in the right position on Wednesday.
He's the Warren Creval of this roster right now, right? Just like he should be the Warren Creval of this roster, just coming in and shutting it down.
And that's fine. I think Real is fine in that position, as that you know what you're going to get out of him, and as long as he's in the right spot, you know you're going to get out of him, right?
I think he's on a 1-year deal, if I remember. So this game time that he got just recently and whatever happens to the rest of the season may be his best chance to leapfrog somewhere else, if that makes sense. Because the last couple of years, he has been the odd sub, or frankly, I think grandpa at the Union too, more or less. So
well, you have to think too what Sorensen going to become for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, just putting that out there about Real, I think that's just his contract situation. And I don't know. He might be cheap enough to keep another year. I don't know. I would hope that this roster evolves a little bit more than it did this past season.
I feel like as well, I think like they are trying to like prepare him perhaps, or they're trying to prepare themselves perhaps for the inevitable Kai Wagner departure, giving, Matt Real more minutes this year, trying to play him a bit more versatile, like offering more versatility. We've seen him play at left wing back. We've seen him play the left side of the diamond. Seen him play at left back. And perhaps they are just preparing themselves for this season where, being realistic, you really going to have enough time to get in a Kai Wagner replacement in the middle of the season who's going to offer as much as Kai. Probably not. So perhaps, getting Matt Real minutes, getting him, some familiarity with the lineup, the way that the team plays is probably, I know it was sort of Mike said, we haven't seen him much the last 2-3 years. I mean, at one point, it looked like he was on his way out and he wasn't going to play for the Union again. And he could end up being the starting right back to end the season if Kai Wagner ends up leaving, for Europe in the summer or whatever, or even at the end of the year. So perhaps, they are trying to see what they got out of him now in case they need to chuck him in to the fire now, as opposed to, you get to the summer, you haven't got enough time to recruit and you're just sort of putting him in cold. Who knows? Maybe that is the thinking, or maybe just Jim's now suddenly got more faith in him because he's been there longer than certain other players that have come in over the winter.
And if we say like he's like old, you mentioned the grandpa of Union too. He's only like Dave's age, 23, 24.
and that may be the case. It just honestly, and I think in our group chat when we talked about it, I think I made the observation of like, it really feels like Real has been around for a long, long time, just not on the field.
He was on the Shield team.
Yeah, I mean, and even before that, I think he was with us too. So there's that too. So yeah, I think your points are valid, Dave. I wonder if we're trying to prepare for two things, right? one, him be the replacement for Kai, which especially after Wednesday, I'm glad Saturday went the way it did, Mike, because after Wednesday, I would have been very concerned about Kai, maybe pushing even further to get things rolling in terms of his departure. Not that he's asking for it, but rocky season interest, I think, that we've heard over multiple months now about him being a target for Europe. And now that things are shaking out and who's staying up and who's staying down, both in the Premier League, but other leagues already, interested to see what happens. But and then the other option is just flashing him out on the field, getting him minutes under his belt so they can, be a good steward for Matt to help him advance to his next position, wherever it is, whatever team it is. So it's really, I think it can be both. I don't think it has to be exclusively one or the other. I'm just intrigued to see what shakes out in the off season.
Agreed. And Eric mentions on Wednesday, we saw a bit of the 2023 union. Well, Saturday was much more of the 2022 union. So let's segue into Saturday. That's a kind of a good way to begin to it. Two different teams we saw this week. On Wednesday, we had obviously A, and then against the Revs was a much different version. So Dave, I know you only caught the highlights, but reactions to the 3-0 win on what you saw in the highlights briefly. I know you want to talk about Leon Flock a little bit, right?
Well, I was just saying, obviously, Jose's point a minute ago, sort of saying, he hasn't, he's been solid the last few weeks. And I think, as I say, I know it's my birthday, but I mean, you have to be that kind. I think, again, I feel like the last few games, especially, I think the thing that hampers Leon Flock is the fact that Jose is a really dynamic player in that six where he can carry the ball forward. And whereas I feel like Leon Flock's more of a basic, traditional six where, he stays in there, wins the ball, keeps it simple, gives away the 5-yard pass, and just tries to keep things sticking. And that might hurt me a bit, perhaps expectations there, but I don't really think Leon's really put a foot wrong the last few weeks. He gets stuck in when he has to. His positioning has been better, I feel. I don't think he's been caught out as much. And I think he's perhaps been playing a bit of a deeper role, which then allows the fullbacks to, actually push forwards and, do their thing. But I was going to say another thing which, Mike, my agenda that Jose Martinez should be played as an 8. But again, you just see that he offers so much more on the outside as opposed to a Bedoya or even Jack McGlynn. I wouldn't even mind seeing Jack McGlynn perhaps playing that deeper role where he can, spread the ball around and he's got more players ahead of him to, distribute to. But you just see that Jose just getting on the ball, taking a guy down the ball, taking the ball beyond the player, getting down to the byline and cutting it across the face of goal. Carranza should do better with the chance, but that's just something we haven't seen from an 8 from the Union for a while. Like the player, we do lack that sort of that ball playing ability, that sort of pace, that quickness on the ball, being alert, willingness to take on the defender and get beyond him from an 8. We haven't seen that for so long. That's why I just feel like Jose would offer more. And again, perhaps because he is in a bit of more of a wider position, we wouldn't see the spontaneous, hit and hope shots we do see every week, as much as we love them.
Would you say that Martinez was brave in the moment?
Well, in terms of getting beyond the man or taking the shot from...
No, I'm joking because that obviously, as we've talked about, that has been Jim's line over the last couple of press conferences. But I think you're right, Dave. I don't think I can't recall outside of a Monteiro or a Fafa Picot, actually someone taking on a player like that in a long time. And obviously both, I think one with Houston and the other one in San Jose. So it's been a little while since we've had a player actually take someone on like that, because we talk about whether or not people have figured out the Union, and that question has been asked to Jim I think countless times at this point, and it's sort of the same thing, right? Take it up, let Bedoya get wide, maybe Mbaizo does an overlap run, or get it to Kai a little bit earlier, he crosses it in and hope that somebody does something. That to see that as someone, and I actually, as the only one of us that was on at the stadium on Saturday, as soon as Martinez did that, you sense that there was some pep and excitement to the crowd, right? Because we finally saw somebody take somebody on and do something exciting and fun. Never mind Carranza booting it. I think it exited the stadium actually. So over by where past the actual seats into sort of the Subaru sign where the Tifo would technically lie down before they pull it up. But I can tell you that the crowd absolutely loved it as soon as that happened, and there was that sense of excitement.
Well, yeah, and we also saw the formation I think all of us wanted to see. So we
Oh
had,
my God, it
you
was
know,
beautiful.
we had 3 center backs, which we've basically been clamoring for. We had Kai and Olivia on the wings. But so essentially what Jose kind of hinted at with the joke was Jim Curtin has been saying over and over again, the team needs to be braver, right? We need to be braver in this attack. We need to be braver in this game. And it's at what point is it, well, when does this bravery start? I do think that he alludes to the bravery from Leon Flock and Jose Martinez on Saturday because they know that Jack, Damian, and Jacob can handle somebody one-on-one if they need to. To Curtin's point, says you don't want to have that happen all the time, but you know that they can do it in brief stints. So with that, it allows Leon and Jose to then be more aggressive. Also, from Jim Curtin's press conference, he mentioned the first 20 minutes of Leon Flock again on Saturday. So I watched the first 20 minutes again. And I agree. I think his passes were simple. I think his pressure was effective. He had one moment, which I mentioned in the report on AAT Sports Network, in the 12th minute. He perfectly intercepts a pass. He pushes it down the field. He gets a shot off at net. It causes a shot from Daniel. And then he recovers a rebound. He passes it to Olivier. It was all the little things done correctly. He wasn't trying to be doing too much. He knew his role in that moment, and he did it very well. I thought Leon played well, but Dave, as soon as I kept seeing Jose going down that right side and just being active, I was like, this is exactly what Dave has been calling for years. And to the point that Jose's making, where whether they figured us out or not, a formation like that is what counters that. You don't know how the Union are going to attack, or you can attack differently when you're in a formation like that. When it's not predictable every single time. I was very pleased with it. I thought Jose Martinez played phenomenal. I thought he was extremely active from beginning to end. Go ahead, Dave. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I think it's been a bit frustrating. So I think, obviously, Jose, you'll probably realise this as well. And obviously, when Jim has spoken about bravery and seeing bravery from other players, probably the most frustrating thing for us is the fact that the most brave player in the entire team is the guy that's meant to be a holding midfielder, which is probably supposed to be the least brave player in the team, the guy that is meant to keep it simple. And we see it so often. I think, of course, we shot in the MLS Cup final last season against LAFC, where he tried to, tried to take the ball out from the penalty area, lost it in the giveaway free kick. Saw it during the Club America game, and I just sort of feel like if you did put him out in that 8, he could have. He would have perhaps more flexibility to try play with his back, facing 2 goal and trying to turn and work his way up, as opposed to doing it on the edge of the penalty area where you got a direct shot goal. There's more space, as opposed to on the right hand side where they've got to move the ball inside. And I just think, again, even if you play that same formation, the 3-5-2, you've got the holding midfielder in there or whatever. I just feel like it gives you perhaps allows you to perhaps play Jack McGlynn a bit deeper. So he then has more players to pass to. He's got the full view of the pitch. He can play the ball out to the wing backs. He can play it simple. He can play it into the feet of the strikers. Jack McGlynn has more of the pitch, has more of a canvas to work on, as opposed to being isolated on the left, and all he's got is Kai Wagner on the overlap, and then perhaps the back pass and the switch, whatever. So I think it's definitely it's a more versatile formation. It allows you perhaps, as opposed to playing with the diamonds and playing Jack McGlynn at 6 probably isn't the brightest idea, because if you get caught in the counter attack, no disrespect to Jack, I feel like he would be the easy target. If you're in a 3-5-2, you've got the 3 players back there, and Jack can obviously drop in and sort of make it a faux 4 where, perhaps it allows 2 of the full-backs to split out, 2 of the centre-halves to split out wide to the full-back, and Jack can sort of come in at left centre-back, so it's more cover. But yeah, I just think, again, I think 3-5-2 works. Obviously, I doubt Jim will move to it full-time, but I just think in terms of certain games and how the pattern of play goes, it allows you to perhaps be a bit more versatile with the passage of the play, and perhaps that is what helped on the Saturday night after the 0-0 draw. They saw the weaknesses at half-time. There's perhaps made adjustments, moved Gazdag further forward, and it has endless possibilities.
Jose, what are your thoughts?
I think your point's right. Martinez had an incredible game. Let's also, and I know I've been a big proponent of him, but Damian Lowe also had an incredible game in New England, shutting a lot down. But that 3-5-2 formation, a couple of things that I noticed in the stadium, a far more agile and speedier formation, allowing players to be, I there was not a Bedoya per se that would kind of not, move around as fast as other players. There was a lot of agility in this team. It wasn't as rigid per se. I, I really like that. It was very malleable per se, to the point that I love the three in the back and then the five in the middle, where you saw sometimes some movement where suddenly Glesnes is the right back and then Kai has shifted back, and then you have the Elliott and Damian Lowe as center backs, just to kind of, the build of the play was coming up the right side, so Glesnes is coming up that side, let's shift over, or Kai, go ahead. So I really like the flexibility of that of that formation, but I'm fully expecting to not see it unvaulted for a little while. Maybe like 10 games from now, we'll finally see it again, but I hope not. I think there are a lot of positives out of that. I wasn't able to listen to the press conference, but it sounds like Jim was a happy man, and he alluded to doing the small things right. And that's exactly what a lot of players that needed to put up a performance did that evening. And I'm just so glad to see Uwa's knee is okay after speaking with him post game on Wednesday. He had a great game against especially someone as seasoned as Farrell for New England. So I was so glad to see that he was healthy and was able to provide a lot that day.
Yeah, a lot to unpack in terms of the second half of the New England match, as well as just little things that were done. So Curtin, again, mentioned in the press conference, doing the simple things correctly will produce the goals that we saw on Wednesday, or Saturday, rather. He also talked about Ali Bedoya. For those of you who could not catch the match, Alejandro Bedoya was not in the lineup, nor was he on the bench. He mentioned that during training, he had a grade 1 quad strain. Now, Curtin kind of alluded that it could be scar tissue that just is causing this issue. It could be something obviously new that he strained in training. So they're going to be cautious with Bedoya. But now you begin to think of the depth issues that we have, right? Well, I guess not the issues, the good problems that we have. If you were to use this formation moving forward, which I think everybody right now wants to see because the diamond just isn't working right now. How does Bedoya fit into this, Dave? I mean, how do you put McGlynn into this? Is Leon Flock, put to the bench for McGlynn? I mean, what do you think here, Dave? Once Bedoya comes back around,
Well, anyone is droppable for Bedoya, clearly. Actually, this is going to sound really batshit crazy in left field, and perhaps this is going to sound perhaps batshit crazy, maybe really left field. I'd be intrigued to see perhaps Bedoya play right centre back in the back three.
Mm-hmm. He's done it.
He's done it.
Just
That's
impromptu.
Impromptu. I'd be interested to see what that could do, because I mean we see it so often where teams do the overlapping fullback, overlapping centre backs, which all Sheffield United do in their couple of seasons in the Premier League, and it's become more of a trend when teams play back three with the centre backs being more advanced on the outside.
James Milner. That's a perfect analog in a way. An older player moving from midfield to a defensive role that gives them some slack in that of how much work per se.
It sounds crazy, but I mean, if Jim wants to be that versatile and say, look, okay, you have that freedom to go forward as long as, I don't know, say Flack drops in or Bizo perhaps drops in, or, if the team is playing extremely cautious, you then get that man extra going forward. Perhaps that could be something that Jim maybe looks at in the future. Of course, I highly doubt that would happen. I feel like Bedoya's, if he's fit, he'll probably play. If it is the 3-5-2 that we're discussing, he'll probably play in the Flack's position. But yeah, I think it's certainly him playing a right centre back perhaps makes more sense, and then it allows you to have that versatility and more legs in midfield. While Ali, who fair play. I mean, it perhaps would be best thing. He's not the quickest, but he's not extremely slow either. He's still got a bit of pace about him. So maybe it would work. Perhaps on the right side of three, and he has more freedom to do his thing.
Jose, your thoughts on
that? I think Flock is probably it's the easiest answer, right? Flock out, Bedoya in for a formation like this, and we go back to my point of the rotation, right? Being able to cover for one another, especially in the run of play. Offensively, it's a little bit easier than defensively, but I think Bedoya could be great at sort of guiding from the back forward. Obviously, he's a captain and he's vocal, and sure, he comes off, the armband goes to Blake, and he's vocal. But I think Bedoya could probably do a lot of good work out of there, and sort of shifting down, I should say, his role. But the McGlynn question is really interesting to me too, because I don't know who goes in or who goes out, I should say, for a McGlynn in a situation like this, especially when you're talking about bodies that need to get game time. I'm guessing maybe he comes in for a Daniel Gastag, but certainly not on a 0-0 match.
No.
And he's not going to replace Martinez in his work rate, and we're not going to take out an Mbaizo or a Wagner for this. So I don't know where he fits in on this. It's tough.
Damian Lowe's production has made this formation very much a harder one to crack into if you are McGlynn, if you're Leon Flock, even Bedoya, if you want to argue Bedoya in terms of quality of play.
It's a great problem.
It's a phenomenal problem. The reality is Jack and Jacob next to each other has been far more Jacob being pretty good and Jack being But I think all of us have agreed upon recently in the chat that Elliott's been playing better lately. And I wonder if part of that is Damian's play as well. And I think all three of them played well on Saturday. And it's like, if they're all playing well, they're obviously competing for the same positions. Put all three of them in. It's only benefiting the team when having that quality play. And to Curtin's point, yes, do you want your center backs to be one-on-one all the time? No, of course not. But the reality is you have three very strong center backs. Why not use that to your advantage? You don't have to worry about someone like Brandon Craig, who's just not experienced enough being on that island by himself.
To be fair, on Saturday's game, we did sort of luck out with the injury with Carlos Gil early on, just to be fully cognizant of how that maybe reshaped the game a little bit, right? Someone like Gil is it Gil or Jill? I think it's Gil, right?
I think it's Gil, yeah.
Okay.
Carlos Gil.
Someone like him who has been an MVP of the league in the past and really the metronome of that team, and it's very, very hard to replace, especially early on. So I just wanted to acknowledge that as something that was maybe game changing in a way, though. I think he lasted 22 minutes, Mike? I can't remember when the injury happened.
35th, I think.
35th minute? Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
But I also don't want to forget to say it. I had mentioned for Wednesday's match just how concerned I was for Jacob Glesnes having to go against a Christian Benteke. Yeah. Not a doubt in my mind after that game.
Awesome.
My gosh, he did well against them. And sure, there were some moments where Benteke was Benteke, and he did his thing and was a shining example of what DC United could do. But overall, I just wanted to make sure I commented about that, because Glesnes really, again, I know he just signed a new deal, but after a performance against a Christian Benteke like that, I think it raises a lot of eyebrows.
There was one moment in that match where it was closer to the sideline where the box is, and Glesnes just plows into him. Benteke hits the ground. He looks at him like this. He kind of raises his hands like, what are you doing?
He did a lot of that.
What are you doing on the ground? Like, it was such a, I'm not going to be afraid of you type of moment from Glesnes. And it was just really cool to watch. No, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, again, I think everybody's in agreement that Glesnes has been playing very well this year. But, I mean, he's been playing really well.
Can we talk about our man Thomas? How proud he should be of that UA throw-in?
Yeah, so let's go to the goals. I think that's a good segue here. So the first goal of the game for the Union was started by Jose Martinez. So he gets the that was the first goal, right? The Gazza goal. Yeah,
the hockey assist.
Yeah. So Jose Martinez has a beautiful tackle right around the 18 of the Union box. It leads to a throw-in from Michael Uwa, but as we saw from Thomas Gronemark with a quick throw-in, which I know he is a staple of his training methods, it was a quick throw. Dano one times it, boom, right into the back of the net, beats Petrovic just barely on the inside post. Dave, your reaction to the goal? I know you've seen it probably a bunch of times now.
8 minutes worth.
Yeah, right.
I think as you sort of said, being quick on the throw and noticing that, you would typically, in that sort of situation, you'd wait until your fullback comes up, to be alert to, quickly take the throw and get the ball and play quick. Well, they aren't in position. They are yeah, they're not in position. It allows Daniel to cut inside and has more space to shoot. And it was a great finish. I think when I first saw it, I thought maybe the keeper could do a bit better. I think, it was its near post, but if you look at how powerful that Gazdag strike was. I mean, the goalkeeper would have done extremely well to have kept that out and to have hit it right into the inside of the post and to have it bounce across the line, giving the keeper no chance. It was a great finish, and I'm just delighted for Daniel, to get off the mark from open play. I think that's probably the biggest talking point in terms of the 3 goals. And obviously, as we move on to the other two goals as well, I sort of feel there's another sort of good positive talking point as well in terms of the four forwards that actually played, that actually featured in the game. It was good. I mean, to get ahead, it was good to see all 4 guys actually contribute to goals. Even Chris Donovan, who the last 2 weeks has come up with a goal and an assist. It was good to see everyone chipping in and perhaps gaining some confidence.
Yeah, Jose, what are your thoughts on the goal?
Early throw in, giving a man like Gazdag the 6 yards in front, left, right, and back. It's a very dangerous proposition to any one team, especially any one defense. That I think we also need to give credit to Ua being strong, especially with a Farrell chasing after him on the sideline. Whether there was a shove or a push, I don't know. He stood his ground, quickly picked up that ball, threw it in. Great job. Again, Thomas probably smiling from far, far away. I sent him a quick message and tagged him to the video, and I think he was very happy to see that. So, and kudos to him. His Liverpool contract just ended, so I know he's probably going to be on to bigger and better things anyways, but just very happy for him to have gotten the exposure he's gotten. But then following that was the penalty kick, right? Mikel Ua working very hard. And having just beaten Farrell again, gets the call, which was surprising to me considering how earlier there was a very similar foul like that in our box for New England. So I was very surprised that the referee called it. It almost felt like a home field advantage type of call, to be completely honest with you, because if you rewind and watch the opportunity that New England had and the foul that could have been, it was identical. So I was very surprised to see that. And Daniel not missing from the PK right now. And I knock on wood that I didn't just jinx it. But it's great to see him from open play, but also to see him continue to do it from the penalty kick. I'm not ashamed of that.
Yeah, I think one of the things to highlight as well was the fact that how nice those 2 long passes were from both Daniel to Ua for the first goal, as well as Glesnes to Ua for the second goal, the lead up to the second goal. So I think you have to kind of take that into consideration, that we didn't see that on Wednesday. We didn't see that precision on Wednesday as we saw on Saturday. So listen, Daniel's been doing well. I know we want to see the open play goals, but to have a goal like that is, I'll take a PK any day of the week, man. It's fine with me. But Dave, go ahead for the third goal, or Jose, a third goal with Chris Donovan there.
Yeah, was that a Chris Donovan interception that bounced to Julian Carranza, who then passed it back to Donovan, right? And then it was a tap in by Julian Carranza at the far post. I think all in all, again, giving us some glimpses on what we can expect from a Donovan, though it may be difficult for him to replicate a nutmeg assist inside of the 18-yard box. So your thoughts on that goal, Dave? I thought it was, again, I'll take any goal, but especially when we have different forwards, putting them in the back of the net is just always that much better.
Yeah, I think, again, I should say it's good to see everyone, again, good to see your forwards putting the ball in the back of the net. And it was just, it was good to see, Donovan, getting on the ball and being confident to actually take it forward. And perhaps, we would have seen, we can get this head up and looking to see the spaces. We've seen it so often this year is the team gets in those positions and Gazdag either carries on going and tries to shoot, doesn't get his head up. And, good selflessness from Donovan because he has pace. He's a quick player. He could have easily thought to himself, if I can get beyond this man, I can go on and score here, which he was, thank God he was selfless enough to put the ball through to Carranza. I just think it was, again, I just think it's so good. I think I mentioned it in the Chicago game, how all 3 strikers, all 3 attacking players contribute to goals. It's all the same here, obviously. Carranza scored 1, Daniel scored 2, and even Chris Donovan getting assists. It just creates confidence. It creates more of a connection between players, and everyone's getting involved. And I know perhaps Mikel's not been as heavily involved in games as he has been this year, but as you sort of said with Thomas and the throw-ins, to be that aware in that situation, because you'll see it so often, the player will pick up the ball and they'll slow it down and they'll give it to a teammate to notice that the Union have that overload. Perhaps they have caught them out. And we saw it last week, we saw that in a few weeks ago as well. I think it was I think it might be the Minnesota game actually, where obviously I think there was a player down off the pitch. The Union was sort of expecting the game to be stopped. They carried on and scored from the cross.
That was Torres, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was a very, very similar situation, and Union took advantage at this time. It's good perhaps to have that awareness to realise, okay, we've got a good position here. Let's jump onto it. And that's perhaps Mikel's footballing brain coming into play there, where he knows that, look, we've got a player on, I can do this, and that's sort of perhaps why they have brought him in, because he's not only a goal scorer who can take his chances when they come to him. He's also got that footballing brain, which he can make those quick decisions, and he can. And again, he's got, as you sort of said, he's got that turn of pace, and he's not afraid to take on defenders for the penalty. When he won the penalty, of course, he said it was 6 or 1.5 a dozen. Yeah, there may be a home call, but
yep,
you got to be willing to try and take the contacts, or got to be willing to try and take on the defender to win the penalty. So I mean, everyone's doing their role, everyone's contributing, and perhaps 3, 4 weeks, 5 weeks ago we weren't saying that. We were all complaining that we weren't getting enough of our forwards. Now over the last few weeks we're getting more, and it's good to see. It's a positive thing to see.
One thing to also remember as we think about Jim's comments, both after Wednesday's match and then leading into for Saturday's match, and I can't recall if he mentioned it on post game on Saturday, but the press does not work if the front three are not doing it as well. They're the first line of defense. So something I noticed being in the stadium was just how, again, the press was sort of present once again. You had a Carranza and Ua taking up those different spots, and Gasek shortly or right behind them, eating up some of those spaces and leading to New England coughing up the ball where maybe they shouldn't. So it gave me a lot of hope to see more of the 2022 Union when you have a press like that finally back, because I think we all predicted that something like that was going to be so critical to the way that the Union play. We don't play a possession driven game. We play let's make them cough it up in their half, and let's just go at them and bite them when we are counterattacking in their own half. So just something to notice, especially as we look to a weird New York City FC game over at Citi Field.
Yes, Citi Field. Jose, you're not going out for that game, are you?
I am not.
Okay.
I actually started the beta taking Raphael, but it's a hike.
Trust me, it's a long day, especially if you get stuck in traffic coming out of the city.
Yeah,
you're going to be there for 3 hours. Yeah, it's the New York City FC game. I don't know what to expect from this year. I feel like we've kind of hinted at this earlier in the season from just our chats that they're not the same NYCFC team we've seen in previous years. Now, I'm curious because of the size of the field, what formation we use, especially if Bedoy is out. Do we go the same formation with the three in the back? I mean, Dave, what do you think benefits the Union the most in a small venue like that? Dave, I think your mic's off. Jose, I'll go shoot to you first, Jose, while Dave fixes mic.
No, yeah, thank you. I'm intrigued to actually get the opportunity to ask Jim at the press conference of, how do you prepare for a game like this, right? Do you just have the guys play futsal? Because that's basically what it becomes, right? When you put in 22 guys in a space that small. So I'm interested to see both what you're mentioning and that in terms of the formation, because if you have this 3-5-2 and then you throw in, I'm guessing New York, maybe a 4-4-3, I don't think that they've been very inventive with their formations over the past year or so, especially after letting go of Tati Castellanos and Haber. I think he's out in Seattle now. I don't think that they've been too creative with that. So I'm interested to see how they get prepared for this and how it all shakes out, though. Let's not forget that they still have, I think, what could be a very incredible player in that of Tallis Magno. I think he's always going to be a threat, and has been over the last few years. Maybe some injuries that got in the way, but ultimately, I'm really interested to see how we shape up for something like that, especially if the captain's not available.
As you saw in the comments, Eric just mentions he doesn't care about the homeless pigeons because you're right, they don't have a home right now. But go to Dave with your thoughts now. I can hear you
Yeah,
perfectly fine now.
perfect. Apologies for that. Yeah, I think to be
No, you're
honest, I
fine.
think in this sort of situation, you're going on the road, a bit of a local derby. Why change a winning formation? Why don't you go probably the exact same team that was so successful in the last game against the New England team that up until this past week has been in really good form in the league anyway. We'll discount their defeat to Pittsburgh,
Yep.
but in terms of league play, they've been very consistent over the last few weeks. Picking up wins. I think the only real defeat they've had throughout most of the season is the absolute spanking by the FC. So I think they've been in really good form to start the year. So again, why not change it? Everyone contributed. Everyone seemed to have worked in that formation. So why not go again? I know you're going on the road. So, I mean, perhaps you have that more defensive cover with the back three, back five. So, yeah. And I'm just adding to that as well, as Jose sort of said with NYCFC, they've lost a lot of players over the course of the back end of last season and this year especially. So, yeah, they haven't been the same team. They have that same attacking sort of sparking threat, with that Castellanos, Heber, and, we sort of see Pellegrini and sort of Talis Magno are sort of the main two sort of talisman, the two dangermen. They haven't really been able to recreate what they have produced in recent years without, the players I just mentioned alongside them. So, no disrespect to them. NYCFC is going to be a difficult game. Regardless, it's a road game in the MLS. It's always going to be tough. So you're going, and it's a derby, isn't it? Really, I think both teams don't like each other. So it's a derby,
Yeah.
I think we'll always remember how the 2021 season ended. That would always be sort of that sort of also be a black cat in the union's mind in terms of a horrific memory that just which will always get people riled up, and I'm sure the traveling fans will have that in the back of their minds. When they do travel there, they'll give them an extra incentive, want to see the team win. So fingers crossed, it will push the union on, hopefully. Put off the win and carry on that roll of wins and their run of results and push them higher up the league table.
Yeah, and speaking of the 2021 team, Stuart Finley was actually in the building on Saturday. I forgot to mention that. He was the drummer on Saturday. It was good to see him back in town. I know he's loved this time in Philadelphia. To see him, probably visiting old friends and just kind of visiting the city again, which is always great to see. But, I know we've been talking about Bedoya this past hour. I wonder if healthy, if Bedoya maybe plays in Leon's spot, if you want to use the same exact formation. If Bedoya is not healthy, my only concern is having Leon with the ball in those tight spots in a field like that, where you just do not have the freedom he had in Super Park when you have a little bit more space, when the defender is not as on top of you as you normally would see. Maybe that's where Andres Perea would be coming into that picture, because he is just more controlled on the ball.
Don't tease me like that.
I know.
Don't tease me like that.
I'm so sorry. That was not right of me to do it. To just pretend for a moment that it made sense. So I don't know how they're going to switch, because I do think, as much as Curtin likes the 4-4-2 diamond, he has been saying it now a few times that on the road he wants to see that new style formation. The change of field, though, just is what concerns me the most. That's more so my thing. I mean, Jose, what do you think of that?
I mean, let's not forget that we're going into, yes, I think a difficult. This is our very first time playing in Citi Field, right? It's always been at Yankee Stadium.
Yes, that's correct. And Valerie says, "Hey, Big Stu." Yep, thanks for joining us, Valerie. Appreciate it.
To your point on Stu, by the way, that stadium was so loud when they figured out who it was. I tweeted a little bit earlier, not as early as other guys, when I finally realized who it was gonna beat the drum, but that it was very apparent that we still miss Stu and his legendary performance in the 2021 Eastern Conference Final at home. The COVID game was awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, in let's not forget, we're going up against, and I think this is where we can continue to beat the Jim Curtin drum of being brave and being bold, right? We're going to a 10th place New York City FC game. Let's not pretend like they were having the season of their year, of their life, I should say. This is a team that has allowed 16 goals and a goal differential of -1, right? So this is not a game that we should be. I'm correcting myself now, but a tie at minimum. But I think that this is one that we could win, though the field I think is going to be as much of a character as the referees and maybe some players are in a way too. So I hope it works out our way. I just want to reiterate, this is not going to Cincinnati. This is not going to Nashville. This is going to New York City FC, a team that's not playing their best game yet. So neither here or there, away game that we should be winning. And Eric nails it, right? City Field, Yankee Stadium, Massachusetts. I don't care. Beat the New York Vagabonds. Yeah, you're right. It's a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it's also not the team that's in form right now.
Right. And so I guess let's segue with that, Jose. We didn't want to run too long tonight anyway. We all got a busy nights and busy day ahead of us. Dave, to Jose's point, this is not the same NYCFC team, and we are kind of hitting our form right now with 6 unbeaten matches. What are your score predictions, your goal predictions for Saturday night?
I think again, I think it'll be a tough game. So I think we've seen there have been tight games over recent years. I think the only real game where it's been quite a wide margin was the game where Jose got sent off in a bizarre moment where I think he punched or elbowed the guy. I think it ended 2-0. But I think I'm confident. I'll say 2-1 Union. Of course, my great shout for a 0-0 draw in Colorado paid off. As did my Bedoya goal in the bet for the boys in blue. But I'm going to go 2-1. I think the Union, they might concede, which again will, perhaps again conceding a goal on the road. Perhaps Jim won't be happy with that, but I think they've got enough about them to come out with the win. I would like to see them play the exact same starting 11 that they did start against New England, because why change a winning lineup?
I don't disagree with that. Jose, how about you?
Well, to give some more context, according to Google, here are the winning probabilities. You have a 28% chance for a draw, 28% chance for a Philadelphia Union win, and a 44% chance for a New York City win. And when you look at the last 5 matches, head-to-head record, 1 win by New York City, 1 draw, and 3 wins by Philadelphia. So something's not adding up there for me in terms of the winning probability, especially the form that we're in going away. But my thinking is that we're going to see a 3-1 win for the Philadelphia Union. I think we will have the tight space will lead to at least 1 PK. Daniel Gazdag will score it. And I think we will see a header by Damian Lowe go in. He's got height, and especially when corner kicks are a little bit closer in that size field, I think that a Damian Lowe will capitalize on that. And then finally, Julian Carranza on open play when the game gets stretched out a little bit, though it's tough to say stretched out when it's going to be a shoebox. But I think Talis Magno will make us pay for it in some way, shape, or form, a goal inside of the 18. So a 3-1 Gazdag PK, Carranza open play, and Damian Lowe goal, and then Talis Magno scoring.
Dave, did you mention your goal scorers, or did I miss that?
I did not, actually. I'll go Mikerua and Kai Wagner.
Oh! Again here.
Dave, let's save those for the off-season.
Eric with 3-1 has a conference champs ring to it. There you go. I like it. So, Dave, you also did get the boys in blue winner this past week, because you did mention Gazdag scoring a goal. So, listen, the Bedoya decision was not what we wanted, but the Gazdag one was. So I'll give you the credit there. I'm not as optimistic as you guys. I feel like I'm still a little weary about that field. I think the probability, Jose, is just simply because they're on the road, and it's nothing more than that. Also, The Union have only won once in New York City ever, so I don't know how much of that's going into it. I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, only because I do think that the field will cause the problems for us. We won't have the same space we had against Colorado or DC or even the Revs. So I'm going to go 1-1. I hope I'm very wrong. I hope both of you are correct. So I will concede that right away. I'm just going to go with my gut there. And I'm going to go with a Carranza goal. I think Carranza's in decent form right now. He's playing fine. I think he'll get another goal and keep it. What, he'll be 3 goals in 4 games, right?
And it's happy
Yeah.
birthday to him
Yeah,
today.
it's his birthday
Yeah.
today, so he's just getting
Yeah.
revved up to score a goal against New York City FC. So, any last thoughts, guys, on New York City before we wrap up the show?
It'll be great to beat them. I hope that we're able to beat them. I think this is a prime match where we can sneak away. Yeah.
Dave
Thank
says
you, Eric.
0-0 at City Field.
I think this is one
I
that
like it.
we can feel really good to sneak away with a win. Places like Cincinnati and Nashville sneaking away with a tie, we feel great. But something
Yeah,
like New York City FC away or New York Red Bulls away, we can feel really good about a win. So hopefully that's what we get.
agreed. So let me read the sponsors off. Or Dave, do you have any last thing before I read the
I
sponsors?
was going to say, I think the one game the Union had one in New York was the game last year where
Yep.
I think Bedoya scored an early goal and then Jack was sent off initially for a penalty which was overturned.
Yes, that's right.
And
Yeah.
then the Union went down the other end and scored and just basically sat back and just absorbed pressure and let go of all possession for like 75 minutes. So fingers crossed it's a bit of a. I'll take the same result, but hopefully, from a viewing perspective, it's a bit more of an open game, and the Union can take advantage, catch up on the counter attack, and hopefully play some nice stuff like they played on Saturday.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to read the sponsors and we'll close it up for tonight. So first we have Statement Games. Check out statementgames.com for a fun new way to fantasy sports entertainment. You can win gift cards and prizes. Free to sign up at statementgames.com. You have Doan Distillery at the Trolley Barn Public Market in Quakertown. Go to doandistillery.com to check out their wide variety of drinks and spirits. You have Vinny's Pizza and Restaurant in Allentown. Discover a new favorite by trying their top pizzas and so much more. Check out their new website at vinnyspizzarestaurant.com. Stuff to the Grills at 6750 Iroquois Trail number 5 in Allentown, PA, or at stufftothegrills.com for their homemade hot and cold sandwiches, salads, appetizers, and baked goods available for any event. Memorial Day weekend, right? Have a barbecue, go to stufftothegrills.com. And then lastly, across the pitch gear and all AAT Sports Network gear at aatsportsnetwork.com/shop. And also one more lastly here, we have MargotReedStudio.com or Margot Reed Studio on IG. Jose, you mentioned it earlier with her photographs from Wednesday. They were beautiful. I put out a few of them on TikTok, which is the same handle you see below on my screen right there, as well as we've been released on Twitter. So Margot, we met her on Wednesday. Very nice lady. She had a great time. All the people we introduced her to were very friendly, so I appreciate everybody kind of giving her a warm welcome. But we had a great time. The photographs came out phenomenal. She got the picture of Kai Wagner kissing Blake through the netting, which came out spectacular. So I was very happy to see that. So anybody wants to check out a photographer in the north, the Philadelphia area, please check out Margot Reed. And again, that is our sponsor Reed tonight. Jose, any last thought?
No, I'm actually very proud that Margot was able to get credentialed. I think it's something that we as a podcast should be very, very proud about, to have 3 individuals being credentialed. I think it's a testament to the work that we're putting out there and how much people are starting to believe in the work that we're putting out there. So I thank Margot for joining us whenever she gets a chance, but certainly, again, all of our listeners, whether it's live or downloads or whatever, however you're listening or watching, thank you so much. We honestly do it for you, and we hope that you enjoy what we're putting out.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Dave, last thought on your birthday here?
I mean, nothing really. Again, just it's awesome to see Margot being able to get in there and being able to shoot again, be able to shoot our get photos of our union, be able to provide us with some awesome photos, and it's great for her to add to her portfolio, because I think again, football is a sport where you can get some incredible photos like the Kai Wagner and Andre Blake one that can last for years, and then photos that people look back on for years to come. It's a great thing, and I'm delighted for her, and I'm delighted that we have her as on our team, and being able to contribute for AET Sports and across the pitch. It's awesome to have her.
Yeah, no, it was. I was telling Jose, she's not. He obviously comes from like a basketball background. She's done obviously different personal events, weddings, that stuff. She's never really had a soccer event to cover that I can remember from our conversations together. And it almost kind of intrigued me. I was like, what will she capture that's different compared to a soccer photographer? How would the angles be different? I thought she did a phenomenal job. The pictures came out, like I said, great. So hopefully she's back with us soon. I know she's traveling, she's getting married, a very busy life she's got over there. So
Yeah, actually,
Oh,
Mike, a lot of really good feedback from friends who are photographers who asked what her equipment was. And when I shared what her equipment was after asking her, they were amazed at how good she was to capture those moments with what she has. Obviously, she doesn't have the equipment to shoot sports, so they were all wondering how did she get that picture. So I think it's again a testament to her work, and we're really excited to have her join matches at Subaru whenever we get a chance.
hell yeah.
absolutely. All right. And my final thought would be listen, we have a lot of breaks now with the Union before we get to the League's Cup. So it's kind of nice to take a breather here. So I've been appreciating that little less soccer. But otherwise, it's just, it was a busy day today in the office and at home. So, gentlemen, appreciate you taking my time tonight and chat. I almost didn't make it tonight, today's episode. So I was good. I was glad to squeak it in
Hell yeah.
and do one more episode with you guys. And again, next Monday, 8:45, same time, same channels, AAT Sports Network. You can follow
We'll
us
be
at our handles below our screens here. Dave GFC Miller, Jose R. Nunez 91, Embraer 1323. That's across the pitch. Happy Monday night.
Hell yeah. Go Union. Doop.
Go Union. Duke.
Good night, everybody.